Well, talking about the third point, that it's actually the network and the internet. So it actually reviews and includes all the information and all the settings related to the like to the internet, to the connectivity, how to create an internet, how to create a network, how to uh, make a like choose a home group and even connect to other groups. So what I want you to focus here in this section is the kind of the the properties of the current connection that we have. So if you want, like if you navigate through that icon here, so you can go and click like view network status. That's the first one, the first link in here. And this is actually it displays the status of the network. So here you're reconnected through which router, and like to like which like to the internet. All right, so this is the way of connection. It's supposed to be either Ethernet if you have a cable, or wireless if you have that like wireless adapter. So if you want to display the details, you can just click here on that button and display the different details that you have. So for example, the IP address, the subnet mask, and IP address we have already teach you about that it's actually the like it is the identity of your computer on the internet, so on the network to say. So how this computer can be reached and communicated, it is not by using its name, but rather it is using its IP address, what we call the IP address. Okay, so also the default gateway and also the DNS and many other information you can find in here. Okay, so if you want to see, this is actually how many bytes are being sent and received. It's just like kind of a demonstration, real life, real time, say, demonstration. You want to now to change the static. You want to change the IP address settings, because you see each computer gains its IP address or have an IP address. How is it going to take it? By using one protocol, and I have already explained this in the previous labs. The protocol name is DHCP, but anyhow, it doesn't matter. Like we don't need to go further into that details of the protocol, but there are two modes of assigning the IP address. Or like either using that protocol, which is a dynamic, we call it automatic assignment, that we don't need to statically determine it, or like kind of a static IP address. So changing between these, you will need to go to properties here of the network, and then go to the Internet Protocol version 4, double click on it, or just select it and go to properties, and then this is what I'm talking about here. So by default, your IP address settings and even the default gateway, as well as the DNS server address, it is actually the entity that allows you to connect to the internet. So it allows you to like to send and receive like different pages information from the internet. So it is the domain name services. It is the domain name service. So well, if you just click on that. So first, I want to go through with you and change the IP address settings now from dynamic into static. But before we do that, let's just review. Like what is the exact IP address, because any other IP address you have entered, it may not bring the connection, because it depends on the network address that you have. So again, go and click on details here, and just focus on this IP address, IPv4 address. So 192.168.10.15. So this is the IP address for this PC, and the default gateway and the DHCP server, the default gateway as well as the DNS server. Here it is supposed to be same as the gateway, by the way. Yeah, here. So 192.168.100.1. So let's just make this open here. Well, let me just then copy like at least the IP address that I'm having. So I will just open a notepad in order for me to remember 192.168.100.15. And then that should be Okay. IP, let me say here inside it, much better to paste the IP address. Default gateway, that's supposed to be 192.168.100.1, and DNS is the same also. DNS and the gateway, DNS and gateway are the same. So these are the most important information that we are looking for. Alright, so now we can close this and go again to properties, and from properties here you can go and like show the property, the IPv4 properties. So clicking on the following, like using the following IP address scheme, so this will actually prompt you to enter the IP address, and this way of assigning address, we call it static assignment. Why? It's because you, the user, are the one who is deciding which which kind of IP address you want to use. Again, as I told you, you cannot like enter any numbers here and then press OK, because if these numbers, or like if this number doesn't match the IP address of the of the network, or the network address of the of the connection you are joining, that of course will definitely not make your computer connected to any network. So that's why it has to be determined, and it has to be carefully chosen. So we can write down now our IP address that we have taken from the 192.168.100.15. Okay, anyway, so I want to tell you something here, so that is that you can actually write these fixed, the first three digits, 192.168.100, they're supposed to be fixed. But when it comes to the last digit, this is the place, because this is the class C IP address. I do not want to go also in details on what are, what do you mean by class C or A or B. But you need to know that for the local IP addresses, normally they come into a way that you can freely choose whatever number from 1, not actually 1, it's after 1, from 2 to until 254, even 253, because the first and last number, 1 and 254, they have been reserved for a special kind of devices, like for example the default gateway, which is the router you're connected to, as well as the DHCP server. So now you can freely choose from 2 to 253 any number, or like any digits you want to enter, but make sure that this digit's not being taken, because sometimes if you enter some digit and you have more than one device connected to the same network, you may have a problem that actually this IP address has been reserved. That's why this is actually one of the the challenges in static IP addressing. We do not need to go for static IP addresses, IP addressing schemes, unless you need it, unless you you want to have it for a certain purpose. What are the purposes that we can put the IP address as a static? Sometimes we need to configure like one PC not to be reached out, and it has a specific IP address because it contains like a sensitive data, for example servers. So in this case, these are the only configurations that maybe you can go for a static IP addressing. Or maybe sometimes if you're actually making some experimentations in the networking, you will need to go for static IP addresses. Well, anyway, because we are actually learning this, so let's just go and continue the the amount of information, the information that we should enter here. So clicking on the subnet place here, subnet mask, it will automatically generate this number, because according to whatever IP addressing scheme, and here it's according to the class, by the way, because this is the class C. So that's why you can see these are the last number, which is 0, which is the number that actually has availability for the user to select whatever IP address. These numbers, it shows that they have been reserved to the network, meaning that we can have many networks in that class, but few number of users. So the default gateway here typically to be the same as the IP address, but changing the last one, the last digit to be 1. So 192.168.100.1. DNS will be also the same 192.168.100.1. The second DNS server, we don't need it because it's an alternative. So it is like an optional whether you want to set it or not. So let's just click validate here upon existent. So click OK and then click OK again. So Windows now is detecting the changes. Well, so this is it. So if you, now you are actually running on a static IP addressing, you can verify this by going again to the IP protocol, IPv4 protocol, and there you go. So all your settings that you have entered, they have been captured, and now you still also can make a connectivity. I want to show you something. I want to show one tool that most professionals are using here in this regard whenever they want to test the connectivity, is that you go to CMD. It is easy. It's just a simple command that we are actually launching. So if you use a command called ping, so ping, P-I-N-G, ping, and whatever IP address you want to ping or URL you are actually trying to reach. For example, www. Could be like google.com, and hit enter. So there you go. So replying from that IP address, which is the IP address for the Google server, here it shows that you have 4 packets has been sent and they have been receiving a response, and there you go. So number of packets sent, received 4, there is no loss, so meaning that there has been like 100% success of connection. So this actually initiates that you can reach the different different parts of the network. You can also reach like the IP address of the gateway, which is the router you're connected to, or the switch you're connecting to, the home router. So ping the IP address. So pinging can be, as I told you, either on the IP address or it can be on the URL. So 192.168.100. If you remember the router IP address, it's .1, which is the gateway. It is the gateway. So click hit enter here. So again, of course, because since you are able to reach outside places in the network, of course you should be able to reach the inside, like the internal network, network devices or locations. All right. So we have already reviewed with you. This is the part that we are actually reviewing, is how to initiate a connection. Actually, there are many settings in the network and many features in the network that you can view. Like for example, changing the home group and managing users and add-ons. So, but this is the important one, network and sharing center, because like most users, whenever they face any connectivity issue, of course they need to go through that section here. So under that section, you can set up a new connection and network if you're setting it manually, or you want to create an internal network with the home. So connecting different different devices, maybe wireless ad hoc networks. This is very important and very useful kind of network. Creating a computer to computer, meaning that you have your computer, you want to connect it to another computer just directly for a purpose of sometimes happen to share folders, sometimes happens to run information or run applications from one remote PC using another PC. So this is actually very important kind of setup. But of course, I cannot set it up alone here or lonely, meaning that I need to have another equipment. I need to have another PC that is ready and actually functioning well on an operating system, so that I can go through the wizard as we can see here. So either through wireless connectivity, or we can actually, if you just go further here, you will need to type your network name. You need to type the security type and determine the security key. I cannot actually go further here because I do not have another laptop to be connected, but this is actually one of the choices that you can go through. So here you can connect to a network. You can choose whether, which kind of network you're connecting to. So here, this is the current network I'm connecting to, but if you have a problem and you want to delete the details on the network, you can go here. These are actually some settings. These are further settings actually here. So this is adapter meaning that it is the network interface card. if you want to to change on it. So this is the medium of connection here. I'm having wireless. I do not have the wire connection available, so you can just go and click on it. It displays exactly the same window that we have gone through, and you can go to properties to directly move to the to the IPv4 connection, and you can show the status here in order to go again to the same window. But managing wireless networks, and this is very important, sometimes you may have your network being stuck. You cannot actually connect to the network because maybe you have entered a wrong IP address many times, or the router has been the router has changed its IP address by the admin. So you may need to to remove the network and then reconnect to it. So for me, I have two historical networks in here, so I can actually remove the network. But make sure that the network that you remove, you need to remember its credentials, meaning the password that you're supposed to connect to. Okay, so so this is it for regarding the networking. I'm not going to go through again to more details. There are many things that we can discuss outside this section, but I'm just I'm just taking it up to the level of the lab scope. Alright, so moving about the second one here. So now what we have done here, we have just explored the network connectivity status. We have created connections, and we have created a static IP from a dynamic IP. And by the way, let me just do this last thing. You can just go back here again. If you want to change the IP addressing to be dynamic, again, all you need to do is that go again to the same place where you have where you have configured your IP address. So unclick here, everything will be disappeared, and now you're actually bringing the dynamic IP connection, and this is to be recommended, as I told you before. Alright, so going again to the control panel. So here we are actually about to explore the appearance and the personalization. So this is the one. So and this is actually the place where you actually can navigate more regarding the display, how to choose the theme, and I believe all of these settings are kind of a user-friendly settings. They are not actually so critical, meaning that different users, they may like to play around with this for the sake of fun, and for the sake of they want to feel satisfied with the Windows environment they are using. So and Windows is actually trying to do this. So personalization here, it is about changing the theme. You can just put any theme you want, and I believe this is actually very very simple, and can be easily detected here. So whenever you select any theme, let's just let me just close this to show you the changes here. All right, so for example, here, see, it has its different settings, its different background, and also different layout color. You can see the coloring and everything has been changed accordingly. If you can see landscape, and what is interesting in these kind of schemes is that they're actually being they used to be changed. The backgrounds used to be changed from time to another, so allowing more interactive more interactive background setting. You can actually set the window color here, and this is very important. You want to adjust the color intensity to be more. If you can notice here, if you can notice that taskbar, or to be, you see, this is more into dark, or this is more transparent. Okay, and you can also choose the color. The color of that. Of the layout of that panel here. And actually there are actually many things that you can play around with them here, changing also the desktop background. These are actually the settings from that has been taken from the gallery that we have just now, and you can also choose any of them, or choose even further than that. So this is the position of the picture. You want it to be filled, or any other position like stretch, tile, and center. Okay, so click back here and go for the screensaver. The screensaver here, it's actually a function that has been implemented in Windows since a very long time, even talking about Windows 95 and 98. It is actually the function that allows whenever you are leaving your desktop, you're leaving your computer, you're not using it. So the computer should actually have some display. This display, the purpose of it, it's actually to protect. It is to protect the the surface of the LCD screen from being damaged because if that kind of if that kind of display remains on this screen and the computer is functioning for let's say 1 hour or 2 hours, this may actually affect negatively the performance of the LCD and may shorten even its lifetime and its functionality. So the screensaver here, it actually provides a moving object within the screen. Okay, so that moving object is just for the purpose of changing the color of the different coloring in the LCD in order to make it in order to actually to keep to save its lifetime and make it more longer and protect it from damage. So default settings in Windows 7 is that it's not actually activated, it's not used. You can use here, click on that drop down menu, and there is actually ready to be used templates of screensaver. For example, this 3D object, you can preview it here, and this is how it goes. So once you move the mouse, so everything will be gone. Not only moving the mouse, you can actually press any key and everything, the screen will be coming back again. So bubbles here, and you already know them, so I think this is even the most famous one that can be used by different users. So you can see here moving objects. They are moving everywhere around the the area of the screen in order to protect the LCD from being damaged after whenever you're leaving the computer for a longer time. Okay, so so after selecting the type, you can here actually select how many minutes you need to wait here before this screen being activated. So maybe 1 minute, you can just add it maybe up to half an hour, 1 hour. Okay, so so this is actually a kind of interesting thing to do. Let's just put it as it is here and click apply, click OK, and go again to the personalization. So well, you see, now this is what I'm talking about. So here the different screens has been changed, because I'm using the theme here, so the theme has actually multiple screens on it, and even you can actually add more background if you want to to enjoy more different and new wallpapers, to say. Okay, so and nothing more to talk about the personalization here. So if you go to display, again, so this is the way how how the icons and the objects are being displayed here. So it's much better actually to follow the default one, because talking about the medium, it may actually, you can see here, this is one warning. Some parts maybe not be will be so big or so small that they will not fit within the area of the screen. So it is much better for us to use the recommended one here, and you can just also for the taskbar and menu here, everything is being controlled. So this is the taskbar here, so we call this as a taskbar. So if you right click on it, you can show the same properties here, but this one has grabbed everything related to appearance and personalization under this section. Alright, so what you can do here is that you can lock the taskbar. If you do not want to lock it, you can actually unlock it and click apply. You can see here I'm able to move the taskbar, increasing it or decreasing it. So and you can auto hide the taskbar here, you see, so it's been already hide, so you can just also activate it or not activate it. And at the taskbar location here, you can change the location of the taskbar, whether to be the button or you want it to be in the side or on the top. And most importantly here is that a taskbar button. So by default, actually, it comes like this, it comes like it comes like this. So this is the default setting for actually the the Windows, but for me, I really like it to be kind of a little bit big so that I can easily click on these. So you can actually do so. And for the start menu, what do you want to have? The start, the power down and the power action. the power button action, what it can do. I mean, like whenever you press on the power from the keyboard set, so what it should do, you can select whatever function from here, either restart, lock, I mean like lock this the computer, or shut it down. Okay, so well, this is all about that. So regarding the also the desktop gadgets, and we have talking about that. So these are the functions that can be ready, that are ready, has been made by Windows, and you can use them. So for example, here double clicking on clock, so you can have it displayed on the desktop, so providing real-time I mean like kind of a real-time or instant updated information. For example, here I'm showing the clock, and also I want to show the weather, for example here. So here it should be, of course, need to be connected to the internet, and many other things. Actually, puzzle, if you want to play with I mean like with a kind of a simple and fun game here. But you need to note that actually kind of information is that the more gadgets you have, actually the slower the desktop will be in loading. So that's why it's not really advised whenever you have, I mean like that kind of a decent specification in the in your computer, to have the desktop gadgets. Okay, so many things are actually under the personalization and appearance, even reaching to the font types that are being used with the system, the folder options that you want to create, that you want actually to manage. You can simply, as we have discussed in a previous session, you can actually display the properties of the folders and files, whether to be, for example, the most important options here is to show and hide the extension, as we have learned before. Alright, so let's just go back again and go to the other point, that it's actually regarding the changing the date and time, and we have actually already taken this. So this is the one in here, changing date and time whenever you've been asked to, for example, to add a language on that on the keyboard. Okay, so you can approach it by clicking on clock, language and region. So clicking on that, you can just go here, changing date and time. It's already here available, and clicking on this icon here, it will prompt you to choose the area that you want to display. So actually this laptop has been set to that place, so I can even change it to another time zone. So changing it to the different time zone, it will automatically capture the date and time in the Windows tray. Okay, so a change date and time here, it will prompt you manually even after you choose the time zone. Let's say, for example, the computer didn't capture the correct date and time, maybe lack of, it's like it is already late, like by 1 hour, or like forwarding by 1 hour. You can just actually set this to be manually, set the time to be manually set up. Okay, so this is actually the main setting that you're going through here. So you can actually navigate for more if you want. And let me just move to the to the other one that is actually related to region and language. So clicking here, you will be prompted by to choose the format. So choosing the format, meaning that what is the official language of this operating system, and be careful of that, because if you selected any other language that is undefined to you, all these namings and all these terms might be changed to that language. So be careful of whenever you choose the the format of that language. Okay, so the location here, of course you need to choose your location so that the language can be captured based on the location. And this is actually very smart, that has been done from Microsoft. So you can select again from the same kind of a similar menu by the country. Keyboard and setting, and this is the important setting that we are going to do here. So by default here you have only one language. Okay, you can actually go and add more languages if you want to define your keyboard to read more than to be able to input more than English language. So you can add here, and let's say I'm going to add Arabic as a language. So clicking on the whatever Arabic country here, the most common one that is being used is Saudi Arabia, and go to keyboard, clicking on Arabic 101, because this is the scheme, this is the coding scheme of the of that language. So click here, so an Arabic has been brought up here as an additional language. You can just actually move it down, or you can click on English if you want to move it up, because currently now English, whenever the computer is loading or it's starting, so by default it will be in English unless you change it to Arabic. So that's why much better to put that language you want to prioritize first in the beginning. Alright, so click apply and click OK. So now you can see here a little icon here has been appeared up, so whether to choose between English or Arabic. Okay, so click OK here, and so this is it. So with that, actually we have already finished our tutorial, and I will not go through more details in here. I will just leave this to you, because like if we want to navigate one by one, we would take actually days in order to in order to explain this meaningfully. So I'm just highlighting these important functions that I want you to to remember. Let me just the last point here before we end up our tutorial, introduce you to the programs, because this is a very important section here. The only thing that I want you to go is that here programs features. This is the list where you go and delete, remove. If you want, for example, to remove a particular a particular program that you have or application you have installed before. So this is the list of applications installed by the user, not by the Windows. Okay, because sometimes also the Windows has its own applications. So for example here, clicking on any of the programs here, let me just click here on that particular program. So it will go for the uninstallation setup. I do not want to uninstall it now, but it is just as simple as clicking on buttons. Okay, so this is the way how you uninstall it. So some people usually used to go to the to the computer, to the C, where they store their information, and then go to the program files and then delete it from here. So this is actually not recommended, because sometimes not all the not all the files of that particular program, they may exist here. Some of them, they may exist in other locations. So uninstalling from this way, from the internal directory, it's not recommended, while you need to go with this kind of official or meaningful uninstallation process. Okay, so this is it for this tutorial, and I hope you really get the benefit out of it. Although it's not actually kind of difficult and nothing actually new that we have added. It is just a Windows features, and I'm just actually trying to wrap up the the different features that are being actually gathered by the control panel. Alright, so with that, thank you for watching, and see you again.